listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Back to I Am Refocused Radio once again. We are here today, and we have another show lined up for y'all today. Today, we are talking to Stacie Shifflett. She is the founder of Modern Consciousness and the author of the best-selling book, Treasure Map to Joy. And she has a history. That's why she's on the show. We have heavy hitters who do great things. She came from acquiring a $50 million software company with zero upfront capital to completely rebuilding her life after a 28-year marriage that ended. She has a powerhouse story that I said in the beginning is why we have people on like her on the show. She has turned every single hardship, adversity into something that will not just inspire you, but bring more clarity and using frameworks that will help you break through the noise and old patterns. So to land the spaceship and airplane, like I always do my intros, I just get her to the show before you actually end the radio broadcast. So first and foremost, Stacie, thank you for being on. I know that's a little teaser, but it's a lot more. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
It's funny, like, more and more people I get on the show, it's like y'all's bios and achievements get longer and longer. It's like, man, this must be like a 2-hour show here. But for you, kind of paint the picture for our audience, what was maybe a refocus moment for you that helped spark what you're doing today?
Oh, I've had so many. I think the most conscious one, however, I've always been one to sort of follow my own path, and I have a very strong value for self-actualization, and I've done so many different things in so many different industries and career paths, which seems illogical, but I have. I think the biggest transition for me was my divorce after 28 years, because the complete foundation of my life was eroded. There was no like, oh, can we fix this? It was just gone. And mostly by choice. You think you know what you're going to be doing when you're in your 50s and you think you have your future mapped out, and you think you'll be retiring with someone and traveling and doing some things, and then it's not. So, I busied myself for the first couple of years doing all of the things that I thought that I needed to do and should do, and I was not financially strapped due to my financial successes, and so I set about getting a house and doing all the things, and really ramped up my social life, and was traveling and doing a lot of fun things. But I was still harboring a lot of resentment and anger, quite frankly, right? Which is, kind of stuck in that mode of grief. And I had to sit myself down and say, you know what, Stace, everything you've done, you've created in your life. And I sort of felt like a leaf floating down the stream. And it wasn't just going to organically recreate itself, right? Because when we let things organically recreate themselves, we're often just taking the path of least resistance. So I set about on a very, very deep personal development journey, and learned a lot and combined things that I learned there with all of my life experience, which I have plenty of at 69 years old. And then I was called to create this company, Modern Consciousness, right, and talk about conscious living in the modern world as a result of that process through meditation. So I resisted that for a bit as well, and then I said, okay, fine, you're not going to leave me alone, let's do it. So here we are.
When you think about that process that you had to go through, I'm sure you had to make a pivot when you were going through a divorce, and life happens, but sometimes people feel stuck, and that's natural, but it's not staying there. Staying there is unnatural. At least, maybe I should make a disclaimer. We don't want you to stay stuck, is what I probably should say. For you, how did you get yourself able to turn the page and move on and not have what was a me moment, like you rightfully could have had that moment, but how did you keep yourself motivated to say, you know what, just have to pick things up?
Yeah, there was a lot of motivation because I was really, you know what they say, when we get tired of our own BS, we make a change. So I was tiring of the lifestyle that I was leading. And, basically what I have done is taken what I've learned, all my life experience, my talents and abilities to, I'm like a geeky analyst at heart. I love that stuff. It served me very well in my career. I can see the big picture and the details at the same time. I'm really good with questions. If you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right answers, right? So the conclusion that I came to, and it is what I live today and what I teach today and what I guide others through, is a process of evaluating our lives to elevate our life, right? So we're taught to, and we routinely evaluate so many things, right? We check our bank balance, we look at our weight on the scale, we go to the doctors once a year for our checkups, but we're never really taught to look at our lives in a holistic manner and see how it's performing for us. And I put all of that in the context of what we're experiencing. What is our life experience? Because that's really, really what it's all about. So I think it's so important to sit down and gain clarity and understand and be honest and vulnerable with yourself. What are you really experiencing today in all these different areas of your life? Because each affects the other. We don't realize it so much, but each affects the other. And then to say, okay, now what would I rather be experiencing, right? And there are external goals, of course, but I don't put them in that framework of an external goal. It's the internal goal. How do you want to feel in your career? How do you want to feel in your relationship? What role would you prefer to play, and how do you want to feel in your family, and so on and so forth, with your friends, your friend group, all of that. And so that's really what I was doing without really knowing it. And then I kind of put it all together into a system that I call the Clarity Sequence and an Elevate Your Life program.
Once again, this is I Am Refocused Radio and watching this online, talking to our guest today, Stacie Shifflett. My next question for you is, you have a talk about emotional defaults. For our audience, kind of unpack what that means and how someone can start stopping that interruption with those type of patterns.
Absolutely. You take yourself every place you go. That is the one constant in life. So who would you rather take with you? The person that is irritable, that reacts quickly, that gets triggered emotionally by everything, that's grouchy? Or would you rather take the happy, joyful, present person along with you everywhere? So I have been quite successful in actually reprogramming. It takes time, and reprogramming is possibly an overused word, but we can change our default emotion. For me, I love joy, right? I love peace of mind. To me, peace of mind is our number one personal asset. The prerequisite for that is knowledge, but it's not just gaining the knowledge. It's not just reading the book and going, oh, that's right. It's implementing it and embodying it in your life. So take a small thing and practice it over and over again. I really think that the way we improve our lives and personal development in general is creating the next best version of ourselves over and over again in small incremental steps. I think so many people try to change too much at once, and that's a recipe for disaster. So it's just small incremental steps. What is going to make the most impact? And what about me? What can I change in me that's going to make the most impact in my life?
When you take a look inside your book, kind of teased earlier in the open, Treasure Map to Joy. When you think about transformation, I mean, that's another word that we kind of hear all the time on shows nowadays. But hey, I mean, everyone's listening to shows, so there you go. That's why it's becoming more common. What are some things you hope readers will be able to discover when they follow the map, quote unquote?
I think, I'd be delighted for anybody to read the book. It certainly talks about some things in deeper detail in the book. It is a parable. It's a story. It's short. It's a quick read. But I think the number one thing, right, if I could only give people one word of advice, it would be to look at those emotional triggers. What just sets you off? Figure out why, because it's usually really not anything to do with the other person, or the situation. It's to do with you. So what is it that irritates you and upsets you about that? So if there's something that you are continually pushing up against that's irritating you day after day after day, figure out what it is and address it. Right? It's not always easy to figure out what it is because we think we know what it is, but it often really isn't that, right? So we have to sit down with ourselves and take a deep, honest look, and keep asking ourselves why, so like, well, maybe, I think that they're being rude to me. Well, why does that bother me? Well, because I think people should be polite. Well, why does that bother me? We just keep asking the question why until you hit the response that generates the most emotion in you. And that's actually the real answer.
And for those who are watching, listening to us, and they feel like sometimes they can get to a situation where they feel overwhelmed to reinvent themselves, that's something that you've been able to do, reinvent yourself. What is a skill or something they can start practicing today to kind of say, you know what? Let's get at it, right? Let's not waste any more time because time is precious. What's some thing or things they can start doing today?
Well, I think definitely understanding your emotional triggers, and there's a free workbook. I know you're going to mention my website. There's a free workbook on there for that. It's a series of questions. But, the other thing, and I'm going through this right now because I'm doing a little reinvention right now. I've kind of flipped my life upside down, and I'm making some changes that are all perfectly in alignment. And, something can be in perfect alignment, and you can be, you're moving in the right direction, but it doesn't necessarily mean you still don't have some melancholy or some sadness or, other emotions that are mixed into it. We usually think in either or, and it's usually and. So what I'm finding right now, and it's really interesting, especially the people around me, because I know the first step, right? All I know is the first step and the first thing that I need to do. And so I'm taking action on that step, but I have released any worry about what comes next. We don't always know what's next, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty in life. So our ability to be able to be at peace with uncertainty is paramount to how much joy and fulfillment we can experience in life. I truly do believe that. So I'm selling my home here in Florida, and a number of reasons, and they're all good and valid reasons, and I've given it a lot of thought. It's also my favorite place on earth, right? This home is also literally my favorite place on earth, except, if I'm with my son in Virginia with him, which is where I'll be headed. But, so there are a lot of things that I will miss, but I'm not putting it in terms of being sad. I can recognize that there are things that I'll miss. I can recognize that I can come back and visit Sarasota, Florida anytime I want. And I don't really know. Right now, all I know is I want to sell my home, so I have to do all the things that need to be done to do that and to get my belongings into a different state. Where I'm going to put them exactly, I don't know. I got a big storage unit, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not knowing, because the first step is to sell the home, see how the home sells, how do I cash out, all of those things. And I can't really decide, or I don't want to decide what the next step is, because things unfold for us in a natural way. And sometimes when we're open to uncertainty, we get the biggest surprises too. So it really, when we talk about changing your emotional default, what I'm experiencing and going through now is an excellent example of that. 15, 20 years ago, I would have been a nervous wreck probably. And I'm not. I actually am okay. My assistant or someone says, what are you going to, I really don't have that answer. I don't have that answer. The only thing I know is A and B, and C, D, E, F, G. We'll figure, I'll figure that out when it's time to figure that out. And that brings me to another point. I know we're short on time, is being present in the moment. So the more present you can be in the moment that you are in, right? Even me with the chaos that's around here right now. Okay, I'm enjoying packing. I'm making sure that I get to see some friends that are here before I leave. I'm making sure that I get to go to a couple of my favorite restaurants that are here before I leave, So, and when I'm doing those things, I'm fully present. When I'm packing, I'm not worried about anything. I'm just present packing. What's the best way to do this? How to do this? Oh, this is cool. This can go to storage. This needs to go in my temporary living arrangements. So I'm not worried about, I'm not fretting about the past. I'm not fretting about my decision. I'm not worried about the future. I am experiencing the moment I am in. And we miss out on so much joy when we don't experience the moment as we are having it, right? It's presence. Presence is so invaluable, right? You got your kids in soccer, and you go to the field and you're watching them play, and you're doing all that for a good reason, but you're on your iPhone and you're answering work emails and you're doing all these other things, and you're not present with the experience that you have created for your family and your children. And it's important.
Yeah, there's a lot. You have to distinguish noise from priorities. And you say the word present. I mean, not that old, but I'm old enough to young people would understand this. But I remember back in the day when teachers would call your name in school, like, I don't know, maybe third, fourth grade, you raise your hand, say present. I mean, that probably never happens ever in today's world. But I remember back in the day, that's what you did. And I'm making that miracle analogy to come full circle to what I'm trying to say is that's kind of like life, Life will just throw things at you, but you have to kind of be like present, like I'm aware. I'm not blindly just binge watching whatever, to kill time. But that time to binge watch, like
yes,
be present and
That's exactly right. That is time you can set aside. My son is here helping, and we set time aside yesterday after all the work we did, and we did just that. We put a movie on Netflix, and, we had dinner delivered, and we made some popcorn, and we were fully present in the moment. I wasn't worried about all the things that still need to be done.
Exactly.
But it's the small moments too, right? Like, go to the grocery store. You can be so focused on, I just need to finish this task because I've got 12 other things to do, and I've got to get here and I've got to get there, and oh my God, my day was awful. I'm happy in the grocery store. I'm fully present when I'm grocery shopping. Now, I like to cook. If you don't like to grocery shop, there are alternatives, right? Fill up your cart, have it delivered, whatever you want to do. But if it's something you have to do, if you're miserable doing it, either figure out an alternative or switch your mindset and enjoy it, because otherwise you're wasting precious time in your life being miserable.
Yeah. I mean, goes back to who you want to go with.
Yeah.
Go lucky or Mr. Scrooge or Mrs. Scrooge, because no one wants that. I mean, it's funny because, all jokes aside, life does happen, and yes, it can get rough. But when, like you pointed out earlier, when you get tired of your, like, when are you going to get tired of it? Because until you get tired of it, like, you're going to push people away because they're going to get tired of you eventually. Disclaimer, because already you got to be careful what you say. But let's just be truthful. If you don't develop and continue to grow, then you become the sour. Like, no one wants that, but no one wants overly sweet too. So you gotta, at times, be sweet and kind, but you also gotta be tough and handle business and keep it moving. And that comes to priorities for how you look at helping people not just with emotional triggers, but also prioritizing their day, getting things done, but not being overwhelmed by being busy.
Yes, it's just also important, and I think we forget that we have choice and personal agency in everything that we do. So we get to choose how we feel about it. We get to choose the story, right, that we tell ourselves about it. And again, to your point, it's not glossing over with false optimism, right? We do have to be honest. And sometimes the right decision is the hardest decision to make. But if it's still the right decision, you kind of move forward with it. You honor it. You honor the emotion. I have been, pretty chipper about all this moving and everything. But honestly, one day I was like, oh my God, I just need to sit down and just, give myself a big hug and have a little cry, and process that and honor those feelings. Did I stay there? Am I in that mood all the time? No, but I think when we allow ourselves to feel the feels and move through them rather than getting stuck, it helps. And we kind of do things in our own timing. There's not, like recovery from a divorce, there's not a formula that says you should be fine in 6 months, especially after a long marriage. It's different for each of us. So have some compassion for yourself as well as we go through these things, and try to meet things with open curiosity instead of self-judgment or judgment from, to others. I think is also good advice. And, it's funny, I know as I was going through the various phases of healing in my divorce, and I've talked to a lot of divorced women. So, they'll hit a point, and I hit this point where, something would come back up and I would be upset again. And I'm like, oh my God, I already dealt with this. Why is this here? And so what I would do is kind of listen to it and dig into it a little bit, right? Instead of going, I'm upset at myself because I'm upset. I'm like, why is this here? And what I learned is that each time it comes up, it's a deeper level of healing. It's a deeper level of understanding ourselves. Mostly, right? Or maybe it's insight into, I really was experiencing that way in the marriage. In the marriage, you may not have recognized what was happening. So when I say meet things with curiosity, right? Open curiosity, go, why? Back to the triggers. Why is that bothering me? And I know I've done it. I've talked to so many other women too. I see them, they go, I've already dealt with all this. Why am I back in this space? Because it's the next level of healing, and it's the way you move forward.
Once again, this is I Am Refocused Radio, watching this online, talking to our guest today, Stacie Shifflett. And I know time has gone straight out the window. I don't know why it goes so fast, but you can go to our website. Make it easy. Go to modernconsciousness.com. Again, that's modernconsciousness.com. One quick question I want to ask lastly is, for someone who feels like they're at a crossroads right now and they're ready for the next chapter, whatever it is in their life, what is a first small step outside of going to your website that can be a powerful step that you want to invite them to do today?
Well, I think if they're having difficulty navigating it by themselves, and we often do, start exploring options and find someone that can help you, a path that can help you move through it. And that's what I did after about 2 years into my divorce, and popped into a woman who did coaching and some energetic healing and these sort of things. So it started a long journey for me, right? But I remember when she asked me, why was I here? I'm saying, because I was tired of being angry, right? I'm here because I'm just tired of being angry. I'm angry all the time. So there is so much help out there, right? There are podcasts, there are books, there are coaches, there are therapists, there's groups, right? There's so much help out there. Find someone that supports you in the way that you need to be supported.
Yeah, I can agree more. If I can add something to that and just echo overall what you're saying, surround yourself with people that you aim to chase after. You know, someone who's done it and you can look up to them as inspiration. That will motivate you. That also will help you to stay on top of it, because, yeah, we're human. We're going to have days we need to binge watch our favorite TV shows because we're in the dumps and we need to be there for a hot second. But don't let that be a whole season times 3. At some point, you got to get back up again and keep at it. So with that, I want to say thanks to our guest, Stacie Shifflett, for taking some time being with us today. If someone wants to enjoy more resources, or there are additional resources that they can find your website?
Yes, there's plenty on my website. Take a look. I invite you. Get the Triggers Workbook if you don't do anything else. I have a couple of other resources there as well that are free.
Awesome. Well, we'll have it in our show notes, and if you're listening to us on radio, go to the website. It's modernconsciousness.com. Again, that's modernconsciousness.com. Like I always want to say to our guest, Stacie, thank you for your time.
Thank you.